Welcome back into the Rowdy Studio. Yes, I am Buzz Cutler. I knew you were asking. This is Bassmasters in case you didn't recognize him. And Carl Edwards, man, not only did he do nothing wrong in this chase, he pretty much did everything right. As a matter of fact, he probably did a little bit more than that because he overcame some adversity at various points in the chase. What more could you ask of him? I mean, he led the most laps.
He started from the pole. He won the pole, started from the pole. The guys were flawless on pit road. I don't think the crew chief made any mistakes as far as adjustments to the car or pit calls. I don't think he made any errors. Carl, I don't seem to remember him getting passed very much, right? At the end of the day, he found himself behind Tony Stewart with only 2 tires and a limited number of laps. And I just don't know what else the guy could have done, and I think that was reflected in the way he handled himself in the post-race. How much more could he have done there to be a classy individual? Classy, the only word I can really think of to describe it. A guy behaving in a way that you would absolutely want your kids to behave, handling defeat with the utmost grace.
I knew that this was a possibility, though, and I was prepared for this. And I told myself, I told my family that, you know, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back to that motorhome, win, lose, or draw, and I'm going to be, you know, a good example for my kids and work hard and, you know, and go be better next season.
You have to be impressed with what he did.
Now, in Carl Edwards' pre-race press conference, he said something I thought was very interesting. He said, look, I don't let this, meaning driving, define me as a man. You know, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got friends, I've got a life outside of this, and whether
I have massive pectoral muscles.
And whether I win or lose, right, doesn't change me as a person, doesn't define me.
Right.
And I think that's part of what you saw in the way he handled himself after the race. He said on the broadcast, look, I told my wife, if I lose, I'm going to be the best loser NASCAR has ever seen.
I think maybe he
and I think he maybe achieved that goal. You know, he had, what did you say, a 4.7 average finish in the chase.
It's insane.
And ended up losing the championship. That's crazy, man.
It's crazy. And I think at that point, you just kind of have to say some things are meant to be. From his perspective, you know, it was interesting that the 3-point lead he had came from a win he got way back at the beginning part of the season. When maybe you think, and the other thing that's interesting about that is the guy at the beginning of the year looked like he was going to be a multiple race winner, right? He looked like he was going to be a multiple race winner. So this thing was so tight that another win in the regular season, he would have won the championship. You know, he finished 11th in one of the chase races. I don't remember which one. If that thing's a 10th, he wins the championship. And that's crazy. On the other hand, Carl Edwards salvaged so many points in this chase. When you think about Martinsville, when you think about Kansas, you think about the points he was able to salvage. Even you go back to Dover, a race that, again, you could look at it as like, oh my gosh, I should have won that thing. I had the car to win it with a stupid speeding penalty, but then he came back from that to finish third that day.
A speeding penalty, which is something that Carl Edwards really never does.
Correct.
And the other thing about Carl Edwards and Bob Osborne throughout this chase is on multiple occasions, their setup was off, and they had to adjust their car more than perhaps they wanted to or would have been ideal as the race went on in order to make up ground, and that was very impressive. Now, let me ask you this. Is it an accurate statement or a fair statement to say Tony Stewart outdrove Carl Edwards?
I don't think it is a fair statement. I don't think it is a fair statement because we never saw Tony Stewart drive past. Well, on the you know what? Maybe he outdrove him on the restarts. Maybe he outdrove him on the restarts.
Tony Stewart was nuts on the restarts over the last half of this chase.
I think that at the end of the day, at the way the race played out at the end, we never really got to see those guys. Same tires, you know, restarting to get, you know, like one more caution, whatever. I don't think it's fair to say Carl got outdriven by Tony Stewart. Maybe on the restarts. Maybe on the restarts. I think Carl Edwards' performance was championship caliber. I think there's no doubt about that.
I agree.
And his performance after the race was most certainly championship caliber. So you have to tip your cap to him, and you have to say, as he said, I learned something from this. This guy's going to win a championship.
At some point,
I mean, if you look at what transpired here, you say to yourself, this guy with this team and this crew chief is going to win a championship. It feels that way.
Did you ever say that about Mark Martin?
I don't know.
I mean, you know,
Nothing is written in stone.
They're
nothing
elusive, these championships.
Nothing is guaranteed. They are elusive. You got a lot of good race teams out there, a lot of good drivers out there. He was beat by an absolutely immaculate performance by Tony Stewart. Otherwise, he would be your champion. So you have to just sing his praises.
He was beat by a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
All right, for Bassmasters, I'm Buzz Cutler. Thanks for watching. We're going to take a little break for Thanksgiving, but we will be back here next week with lots more NASCAR junk.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff to talk about.
Absolutely, and probably we'll have even more by the time we get back.
You just never know.
Well, I feel fairly certain we'll have more to talk about.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.